Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the darkest timeline. This week, what have I got for you? Monitoring weight loss and the ins and outs, the ups and the downs, a little experiment that has been conducted. Problems with the internet, buying fake things, TV, movies, and a whole host of computer games. Obviously, the podcast has become a little computer game heavy recently, but the rest of it's still there. So that's, a thing. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe, and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Big one being is share the podcast around. If you enjoy this or any of the podcasts here at CookieCast, please do share them. Whichever one you like. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the darkest timeline. Hello. How are you? How are you doing? You good? Well. Good. As always, I have to presume that the answer is yes, and we can move on. Honestly, don't know what I would do if the answer was no. As always, you can email me. Go to the website, find the email button. Usually, literally just click a button. Sets it all up for you. Send me an email. Say, when you always ask if I'm all right, and you always presume the answer is yes. Well, guess what? The answer is no. Now this is your problem. I will respond. We will get some backwards and forwards going. That'll be a fantastic thing. Until then, like I said, I have to presume the answer is yes. Made some changes to the list. Had to cut some items out for two reasons. One, I'm not entirely sure sometimes the direction of this podcast. Not a great thing to have. And two, I wrote a subject down that I didn't know how to talk about. So I was like, rather than me mumbling and bumbling my way through something that I don't know how to have a conversation about, maybe just don't. There's another one on the list as well that I'm like, I don't know how to talk about that. Sometimes I'll leave things for posterity. There's some part of me that looks at this podcast as in 10 years' time, one of my children might be like, I wonder what my dad was up to at that point in time. And ultimately, there'll come a point in time when I'm no longer here. And in theory, this podcast will be. So there is an element of maybe one day they're like, can still get that opportunity to listen to him and his thoughts and his ramblings, and maybe leaving something in might in years to come become important. And obviously for you, the listener right now, who's like, oh, I thought we had a thing going here. It is also for you. For example, last week I conducted an experiment. I am no scientist. However, there are certain subjects that I feel qualified to experiment on. And one of those that's very high on my list is my own body. I think it's perfectly acceptable to experiment on my own body as a quote-unquote scientist. And as I said, I'm not a scientist. So, what was the experiment? The experiment was, if I closely monitored my weight and took an extreme approach to weight loss, weight control, calorie control, coupled with high, intense exercise regime, can I physically affect my weight on a daily basis? This is a twofold thing. It's an experiment, and it's also like a little reminder. So, where to start? A little while ago, I read a book, and I listened to the audiobook of the same book. And I'm sure you will know this at this point in time. It was David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. And in a lot of ways, it became very much like a Bible of sorts to me. I was live by the book, die by the book. I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, running ridiculously long distances. I'd gone full blown savage. I was, telling anybody who would listen all of the ins and outs of the book. Then, almost immediately, at the point that I get on board on the train, there's another book. Never finished. I had a panic there that I wasn't going to be able to remember it. Never finished. Second book. I bought the book and the audiobook at the same time and just devoured both. And then I just kept listening to them, reading them. I've read both books twice. I've listened to the audiobooks multiple times. Those books led me on to other books, the Cameron Haynes book, and all of that sort of stuff. And the story goes that there was a point in time where David Goggins decided he wanted to become a Navy SEAL. And he was massively overweight at the time. And the recruiter for the Navy SEALs was like, we can take you in X number of months, and in that amount of time you've got to lose 106 pounds to be under the weight requirement. The way he did this was by having one meal a day and exercising like a lunatic. That is the most sort of abridged version I can give of that point of the book. Few weeks ago, I don't quite know how the train of thought went. I was simultaneously thinking two things. One was about that book. I've kind of drifted away from those books and that mentality. My life has changed quite a bit since that time. A broken bone kind of changes your way of looking at the world. So I was thinking about that book and how it had affected my life at the time. And then I was trying to think about like my life and when I'd sort of really decided to do something about my weight, and I was very driven and very whatever. And I had a realization. The way David Goggins lost 106 pounds was 1 meal a day, exercise like a lunatic, I lost more than 106 pounds. The way I did it was by eating 1 meal a day and exercising like a lunatic. And all of a sudden, I had this almost crushing realization that the reason that book resonated with me so much was because an aspect of it I knew very well. I ate 1 meal a day. That meal was purely superfoods, and I mean, its calorie content will have been almost non-existent. It was literally like vegetables, couscous, cottage cheese. Like, the calorie intake was low. My exercise intake was through the roof. I'd walk a 5k first thing on the morning. I'd run a 5k in the afternoon. I was going to the gym. At one point I was doing like over 2-3 hours in the gym. I say this, like eating almost nothing else. I was taking on like sporting activities, all sorts of stuff, just to get it done. Like Fridays, Saturdays, I'd be doing 10Ks just to do as much as humanly possible. So having this realization, I was a bit like, I'm thinking, this weight loss method was like an innovation, and I'm like, I came up with that. Not like that, but I was like, that's how I did it. But that idea, that thought, that single drop of water into the pool of the mind, spread out those circles. So, getting back to the plan, I was like, okay, here's the plan. The plan is to do that. Eat 1 meal a day. Exercise like a lunatic. A couple of days of the week, there will be an additional meal, but that meal is like, it's just veg, hummus. And that's that. Exercise like a lunatic. Go hard in the paint. All of that. The biggest key for me was to monitor my weight. Now, the way to do that, for me, I get weighed on a Monday. We all know this. So I was like, right, I have to weigh myself every day. Every day for a week to see what the fluctuations look like. The theory, the goal, Goggins' goal was, I think it was 2 pounds a day was the goal. My goal was often more in the region of £1 a day, but I wanted £1 every day. So the equivalent of £7. And I made one other distinctive tweak to the week, which I'll come to. So, Monday, step on the scales Monday as normal. Make a note of the weight. Monday is more often than not typically the day where that additional meal was coming in. I was like, right, fine, whatever. On the Tuesday, I stepped on the scales and there'd been a loss Now, it was one of those things. The loss was £1, but it was all in the... I suppose you would consider it to be in like the ounces area. Hard to explain what I mean by that, but it was like if it was like, how do I say, like 0.82, like 0802 is it how I've got it in my head. Then it was like 0702. So it's £1, but to me the biggest loss was in the ounces, and I know that doesn't make a lot of sense because it's still £1, but it'll all become clear. So I was like, okay, well, a day that had the additional meal, managed to lose £1, everything's fine and dandy, all of that. Tuesday, step on the scales on Tuesday, and that's that. Step on the scales Wednesday. Not a lot of movement on the Wednesday, which I thought was strange because Tuesday was technically the first day of the week with just the one meal. Like, are there any tweaks that I could have made there? In all honesty, no. The only thing about a Tuesday is the workout on Tuesday works a big muscle group, so it's legs. And the thing about the Tuesday legs is working that muscle group harder, you have to kind of presume that there's going to be a bit more to it. My legs are honestly like tree trunks. So working those tree trunks, there's a possibility it might be more weight. So Wednesday into Thursday. Wednesday was a 1 meal day. Into Thursday. Thursday was a 2 meal day. What was interesting was stepping on the scales on the Thursday, £2 difference from the day before. And honestly, on the Thursday, I was like, now that is what we're talking about. Thursday, 2 meal day. Friday, I think on Friday there was like a £0.5 difference. But the way it was, the short version is by Saturday morning, I had lost £5. Now, there's a part of me that's like, wow. There's a part of me like, damn. There's a part of me that's like, no, that's what I'm talking about. There is another part of me that was like, are we honestly, is this honestly, the answer is this it? Essentially, starvation, eat next to nothing. What you do eat is salad and a bit of protein, a little bit of fat. That's it. Work like a madman, running, lifting weights, climbing, all of that stuff, walking the dog, constantly getting into that sort of 10 mile for the day kind of area, all of that. Is that it? Now, I know that somebody out there is like, yes, that is absolutely it. That is the answer. And I'm like, I need to be clear on this one. I need to understand that when I'm like, I don't understand why I can't lose any weight. It's that, but I had lunch that day, and my lunch was some rice cakes with Marmite and peanut butter. Now, if you're going to begrudge me the rice cakes with Marmite and peanut butter, and yes, I am aware, a handful of mixed nuts in there. You could probably not. It's I get it. You know, I listened to something at one point and it was like, you're not special. If you can't lose weight, you're doing something wrong. But I was at the limit on this one. Saturday is cheat meal day. So here was the distinct tweak that I made to my week. I said, the cheat meal's still going to go ahead because it's a part of the experiment. The part of the experiment I want to know is how much does the cheat meal affect all of this? I've been through this before in a different point in my life. I was at my absolute peak of everything. My eating was dialed in. My exercise was dialed in. Everything was dialed in. And then I plateaued and I physically couldn't lose any weight. And I went through this exact thing. It was the question of, is it time for that thing to go? So, 5 pounds down, cheat meal on the horizon. I said, I'm going to have my cheat meal, but I'm going to have half as much. And that's what I did. I stuck to my guns. Half a cheat meal. That's that. Sunday morning. Now, Sunday morning is the key because at this point in time, we need to see what damage we've done. And it was not good. Of the 5 pounds I lost, I put 4 of them back on. The other problem being is Sunday is my non-eating day. During the day, I have tea on a Sunday. But at this point in time, my body has adjusted to, well, that's what you've been doing all week. I was scared. So, I'm like, okay, I've got today to shift 4 pounds. Now, I know how it works. That's not going to happen. It's not possible. It's not a thing. I also know it absolutely is possible. It absolutely is a thing because I've done 6.5 pounds in a day before working on this principle and this method. So trust me, believe me. I know it's it's physically not possible. It's the food, and if you go with the method, Monday morning you should be okay. So, today is Monday. I got up this morning, I stepped on the scales, and I had lost 4 pounds. So, that was the result of the week. What did we learn from this? A few things which were interesting. Obviously, the method works. Is it for the better? Is it for the worse? Some people in certain camps would say it's absolutely for the better. And those people, I agree with. I'm with you. I'm on board. Another group of people, another camp would say you're starving yourself. That is a recipe for disaster in so many ways. It's not the right way. It's not the plan. And those people I am absolutely with and I agree with. The point is a balanced diet, doing exercise and all of that. When you have to take stuff to the extreme is the point in time where that doesn't work. No, you can't have rice cakes with peanut butter on. You've got to take them out. What other things did I notice? Some surprising things. In a variety of areas, I felt stronger. Now, I have a mentality of, I'm going to go and do a workout. I best put some fuel in my body. Handful of nuts. There was these packets in the drawer. They were nuts and raisins, and they were just a lifesaver. Do that, then go for a run. Do that, then go lift weights. Because you do run some dangers with lifting weights. Last thing you want to do is get woozy in the process and end up killing yourself. So we're always trying to avoid those things. My point is, put fuel in your body so that you can go and do the exercise. Not putting the fuel in the body, I'm like, this is a potential recipe for disaster because something bad could happen. In actual fact, there's this caveman principle. You starve yourself into high bursts of energy. So you have these bursts of energy, and it's designed around catching prey, catching animals. When you're absolutely starving, you're at your absolute peak physical ability. So I was going in the gym, lifting weights like they were a little bit less than previous. And I'm like, is that principle of best put fuel in my body? You know, surely that's the principle of having a protein shake before you lift weights. Is it not? But I found this ability to lift, climb, etc. a little bit easier. Because I was really digging deep into lifting weights, and one area that I was working really hard on was like core muscles, really digging into core workout. Something I noticed from these workouts, which were harder workouts because I was putting more in, but easier in some respects, my body was aching. But, you know, the good ache. Like, oh man, my abs are aching after yesterday's workout. Oh, my abs are absolutely killing me. Oh man, my legs are feeling that workout from 2 days ago. It was that all week. Now, I'm a bit of a weirdo, I suppose. I kind of like that. I kind of like that feeling, and I think I've always enjoyed that feeling of, man, I really got after it the other day. Is it right? Is it wrong? The results, right? Felt good working out, felt good running, felt like I had more energy, felt more able to do the ridiculous number of things that I do in a week. That's ticking a box. Lost more weight than I've lost in a good long while in one go. That's ticking a box. Yes, you'd have to look at the other side of things. But there's that thing that I think the benefits outweigh the... Ultimately, you're starving yourself. And one of the big ones, the big kicker in all this is that knowledge that the moment you start down this road, your body flips like a giant hourglass. And ultimately, your time is ticking until the point in time where your body gets used to it and your body goes, I don't work like that anymore. And at those points in time, there's the principle that you're supposed to shock your system back into working. So you have a high calorie day, and that brings us back to the cheat meal principle and all that. But your body will adjust, and it will work against you. Your body is its own worst enemy. So a few things there to bear in mind. Today's Monday. Monday is the furthest point away from the main weigh-in day of the week, and I'd had a good week previously, etc., etc. So I've eaten like an absolute pig today. So yeah, not all great. Man, those nuts. Did I tell you about my internet? That is a silly statement, because I don't think there's anybody that doesn't know about my internet right now. Try watching a football podcast, if you will, and just see how many times it cuts out 8 minutes in. Yes, I have something that pretends to be internet in my house. Outside of that, some people would tell you that I don't have functioning internet. There was a point in time where a couple of engineers turned up at the house. They were like, "We've been here before, recently." I was like, "Yeah, you have." They were like, "Right, let's have a look." They had a look and they were like, "Look, mate, there's nothing wrong." I was like, "Okay, so explain to me why I lose internet 2 to 3 times a day." Well, we can't, because the internet is working perfectly. The equipment is working perfectly. So you tell us. They were like, "Look, without buying one of these light meters, the best thing you can do is take some pictures of your equipment when your internet goes and email them to your internet company." It's like, right, fine, whatever. So there was a point in time, a couple of days later, the internet went at a point where I was like, "Oh, it's just the internet's gone out." And I was like, "Oh, perfect opportunity to run and get some pictures of all the equipment," which I did. And luckily, might not be the way, but luckily for me, all of the stuff that my boxy thing was supposed to be doing, it wasn't, and it was doing things that it wasn't supposed to be doing. So I took all these pictures, found a way to email my internet company, and I sent them an email. I was like, engineer came, told me that I needed to send some pictures if I got the chance. Here you go. Didn't think too much of it. Next day I get an email. "Oh, we're really sorry that you felt the need to contact us to complain." Right? I mean, no. But yeah, I guess so. So I was like, "That's interesting. Let's see how this one plays out." So, we're gonna look at it in the next 72 hours. I was like, yeah, whatever. And in 72 hours, you get nothing but internet outages. So within 72 hours, I get an email saying that my complaint has been passed to somebody to look at, who will look at it in 72 hours. And I was like, whatever. Then I get a thing saying, "Hi, we've looked at your stuff, blah, blah, blah. We're gonna phone you in 72 hours. I was like, which 72 hours are we on right now? Because I'm pretty sure this is the third one. They're like, "We're going to phone you on this day at this time." I was like, "Okay, fine." So I get a phone call. I answer the phone. "Hello. Hi, is that Mr. Cook?" "Yes, it is." "Phoning about your internet complaint." I was like, "Okay." And it's one of those, they've got the details. They've looked at how much I've contacted them in the last 18 months. And, all good. Yet you still have to go through what the problem is. I'm like, fine, whatever. I'd rather go through it on this call and know that we're all on the same page. I went through it. They were like, "Right, okay." The guy then proceeds to tell me how many routers I've got in my house, how many, I don't know what you call them, hotspot type things, and whereabouts they are in my house. Now, for a long time, I've had this belief that the reason you have these internet problems with these devices is purely a data gathering purpose, because the questions they ask you when you're dealing with these problems are nothing to do with whether your internet's working. It's all to do with what your house looks like, what devices you own, how you connect to the internet. And as I keep saying to people, I won't mention which company owns these devices, but that company is notorious for trying to gather data about your home and the things you own. So I'm like, yeah, I don't really like the fact that you've told me how many of these items I've got and where they are in my house. But let's move on. The guy's like, oh, yeah, the equipment you've got is old. You've got one of the ones that you should have. And then you've got two that you shouldn't have. They should all be like that one. I'm like, here we go. Because every outcome of this problem is, oh, your equipment's wrong, we'll send you new equipment. I was like, here it comes. What we really need to do is get you on all the same stuff. I was like, all right. I don't even think the guy picked up on the sarcasm I was putting down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you these devices free of charge. Don't worry about that. I was like, I wasn't. Once they arrive, get them set up. It'll solve all your problems. It's like, cool. It definitely won't. What was interesting was I got an email the next day saying, your items are on their way. They'll be with you today. I was like, okay, I mean, that's kind of cool. Big box turns up. I open it. Inside, two smaller but still large boxes. I open those, and inside there are the things that match the one I've got. Now, there is a theory. The theory is that the one I've got is actually the problem. So I was like, I've got a great idea. I'm going to change that for one of these. Then I'll use this one to replace one of the other two. And then I'll use the other new one to replace the third one. Then, job done. Problem solved. Internet issue resolved. Changed the thing over. That went fine. Attempted to use the original one to change it with one of the hotspotty type things. No, that doesn't work. Alright, why not? Yeah, I can't connect. Okay, try connecting it in a different method. Okay, I'll do that. No, that doesn't work. Okay, cool. So I put the hotspot back. Right, okay, that's that. Go through into a different room. I was like, right, I'm going to use the other new one because at least we know that it's a new one, etc. Plugged it in. It did its thing. I can't connect. Right. Try connecting it through a different method. Okay. It did connect at that point. I was like, ooh, that's exciting. Maybe the reason that there is a problem was that original router box thing. This is interesting. This is improvement. It's like, right, we're connected now, so we're just going to do like a internet test, a connection test, and then we'll be done. It's like, okay, go. It did its thing, and it went, yeah, the placement's no good. I was like, oh, right, that's interesting, because the thing that was there before worked fine. Try moving it. And then try again. I moved it as close as I could get it to all the others. And tried again. Did its test, it came back, nah, that placement's no good. Like, how is it that the thing that's not supposed to be any good is better than the new thing that's supposed to be better? So, the outcome here is that I've now got a new one of the routery things that has replaced the old one and the same setup as I had previously. So I sent them a lovely email along the lines of, what exactly is the plan here? What are we doing? Because I'm just getting more and more equipment in my house for internet that doesn't work. The other reason I emailed them was because within an hour of swapping the router over, I lost internet. So, We all know the phrase, if something's too good to be true, it probably is. How many of us ignore it? Because I know I do. And I'll give you an example. I finally realised that I couldn't do without the Steam Deck, so I purchased the Steam Deck that I was borrowing because that was an option, and I went with it. And honestly, it's a very much double-edged sword. I genuinely love it. I'm like a device that I never thought I would ever need. I now can't imagine being without. I thoroughly enjoy almost all aspects of having it. Unfortunately for me, that means that I have a new revenue of places to buy. Sorry, not revenue. Avenue. Revenue is the thing I don't have. Avenue of places to buy games, and that is, as it turns out, a really terrible thing. I need my Steam account taken off me, and I need my Humble Bundle account taken off me, because holy smokes. I honestly, genuinely think I have quadrupled my Steam library in a matter of weeks. It's bad. Anyway, because of the massive number of games that I've been buying, not just for me, for Leanne, for my children. That is a genuine thing. My children enjoy playing stuff, Worms and things, Sims, etc. And I bought Leanne a load of games that she doesn't play. Reached a point where I bought a game that I couldn't install because it didn't have any space. For the size of the device, it's good. It's got a reasonable internal hard drive. However, when you buy a lot of games, like some people do, that space fills up eventually. So there we go. There is an option to add storage. I went off to the internet and I was like, right, I need an SD card. Now, in my house, there are a multitude of SD cards. They are not easily accessible, as I later found out. And I was like, I'm going to treat myself and the Steam Deck to a decent size SD card. Did a little looky-loo. I was narrowing it down, and then I was like, what is this? And I managed to find a terabyte SD card, micro SD card, for a fraction of the price of all of the others. So they were like 70, 80, 90, well over £100 for a terabyte SD card. This one was like 30. Not even that. I think it was like 28. I'm like, oh, now we're talking. That was the sort of price for like 500 gig, like 512. I'm like, well, let's get that. Bought it, turned up the next day. Now I knew from like looking into it that you need to tell the Steam Deck to format the SD card, and then once it's formatted, you can use it. I put the SD card in, told it to format it, and the Steam Deck was like, right then, let's get this going. And it just took forever. In hindsight, didn't take forever. It finished and it was like, nah, there's a problem with that. I was like, all right, okay, do it again then. So it did it again and it came back, there's a problem. I was like, brilliant. Googled a couple of things. One was like, should it take a really long time? And it was like, well, it depends on the size of it. It should only take like the maximum time I've managed to find was like 12 minutes. Then I found another thing saying that they couldn't format the card they had through the Steam Deck and they ended up having to do it through the computer. And I was like, okay, well, I've got a SD slot on my laptop. I'll do it through there. Did a quick format. Took seconds. Done. Right. Okay, that's promising. Told it to do a proper, full format. And about 90 minutes later, it had done about a 12th. And I was like, I don't think that's right. So I cancelled it, told it to do a quick format, tried it in the Steam Deck. No, don't work. Okay. Put it back in the laptop and set it off running. And then over the course of the rest of the day, I took various pictures at various different points in time. 3 hours in, 6 hours. Took a picture before I went to bed. Got up in the morning. And it said it had done it. I took it out of the laptop, put it in the Steam Deck. No, it did not work. I think I'd worked out it had been something like 18 hours to format the card for it to not work. So yeah, I've literally had to do a return, and then I had to dig out one of the SD cards that was in the house in the hope that it was decent size. Managed to find 4. 2 of them were 64 gig. I was like, that isn't big enough to fit the game that I'm trying to install. Managed to find 2 that were 125 gig. I was like, that'll have to do for now. So I'm going to have to do a return on the faulty item, on the item that doesn't work. It's not necessarily faulty. I just think it doesn't. I think it's fake, if I'm honest. Went back to the item, looked in the reviews, because it had like high reviews. I was like, I don't see how. When I looked at the reviews were for completely different items, keyboards and all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, okay. Did manage to find a review for the SD card, and it said 1 star. Could not format this card. Could not insert it into 3 different items and get it to register. This is a scam. Do not buy. Yeah, I kind of wish I'd have looked that up sooner. So there we go. The moral of this story is something that we're all aware of. If something's too good to be true, that's because it is. I've decided to take both of those other things out. One reason being is that I'm looking at 46.5 minutes. The other is I didn't manage to come up with a way to talk about them. So, let's talk about some other stuff. A couple of TV items, a movie, some VR games, and a couple of games that I've been playing on the Steam Deck. Playing to go through. I finished the He-Man animated series that I've been watching. Honestly, I don't know if I really understand why the first 4 episodes or whatever it was, got the reviews. I think it was maybe a shock to the system. I think people went into it with like, oh, it's He-Man. I remember He-Man from when I was a child. They went into it like that and then went, well, this isn't my father's He-Man. I think by the second part, some aspects had been addressed and some aspects were better. So there is that. So maybe that's why the second part got such good reviews. As a whole, I thought it was really good. I was really impressed with it. I thought from start to finish, it was really good. I feel like it did justice to the original whilst bringing it up to like nowadays sort of standards. I just thought it was really good. Speaking of things that I've enjoyed recently, I have watched the first 4 episodes. Well, 4.5 episodes technically. I watched the first 4 episodes of the second series of the series Blood of Zeus. It's another animated thing, so I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. Not a huge amount to say. I have really enjoyed this series. Couple of things about the second series. One, I'm not a fan of second series of anything. I almost wish we could skip the second series. Second series is always, we didn't know if we'd get another series. And now we don't really know what to do with it. And this reeked of that in the first couple of episodes. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be a pain if this is the case. What's nice is in a modern day world, I think there's a possibility that we do seem to get past that quite quickly. Invincible season 2 seemed to get past the season 2 hump or whatever you want to call it quite quickly, and so did this. This really sort of settled into its series 2 story quite quickly. An issue has arisen, whereas the first series was very much, here's Zeus, here's his illegitimate child, here's his illegitimate child's brother, here's their mother, here's Zeus's wife Hera, and the odd other god dotted here, Poseidon, things like that, Ares. Those were the characters you had to deal with. And then there was some other characters, and it was very much like, there was just a cast of characters. What we've now got is Series 2 has gone, well, we've now got a multitude of other people. So you've got Hades, and Hades' wife, and Hades' mother-in-law, and like a lot of the gods that were kind of mentioned in the first series are now like proper characters in the second series, and it's a bit like, it's a little overwhelming for like the number of characters that you're trying to keep track of. Outside of that, it's been very good. I've really enjoyed it. I do enjoy the Greek god stuff. Obviously, big God of War fan. So, that's that. Me and Leanne have been trying to do a thing for films. She's trying to watch through movies from the 90s that she hasn't seen, which is apparently a lot. Problem I've got is movies from the 90s I have seen a lot. So there's that kind of, I'll be like, we could watch this because, I've seen it. Chances are you haven't. She's like, yeah, we can watch that. And I'm always like, I've seen it a little bit. We went to watch something on Saturday night, and as it was going to be something that was on Netflix, and as I put it on, there was a film there on the main screen, and Leanne just went, let's watch that. I was like, what? That's not the film we had to watch. She was like, no, but let's watch it. It's right there. Would you watch it? I was like, I was going to. She's like, right, well, there you go. It was on your list of films to watch. I'm saying let's watch it. I wouldn't say let's watch it if I didn't want to watch it, so let's watch it. I was like, well, okay. So me and Leanne watched the film Atlas. Atlas is very much like The Creator. It's the dangers of AI terrorists, and on the other side of it is a giant mech suit. And that is basically it. Jennifer Lopez, or Jennifer Affleck as she is now, is the main actress. I don't know if we're allowed to say actress anymore. In this film, Mark Strong is in it, and Simu. Can't remember his surname. 1 second. Shang-Chi is the answer. outside of that, I want to say what I think it is, but I don't want to offend anybody. I can't see either. Atlas. Yeah, I was right. Simu Lee. There you go. That's that. Yeah, Mark Strong, Simu Lee, Jennifer Lopez. Basically, pretty much all you need to know about that. Just from a cast perspective. I'm sure the other actors in it will appreciate me saying that. My number one takeaway from this film is I really wish that Jennifer Lopez wasn't in it. She was all kinds of awful. Like, awful. She was terrible. Because at one point, Lan was like, I think it's the character she's playing. I was like, no. I get the character she's playing. I get that character's like cold and, traumatized, etc., and blah, 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 blah. And this is her character. But she's playing the character badly. She was not good in it. Another thing that seems to crop up a lot, and weirdly, I'm pretty sure I said this when I reviewed The Creator, is in these super CG heavy movies, what the tendency is to skimp on some CG here and there for lesser CG. And it came up a few times in this, and I was a bit like, to me, it's just so glaringly obvious. And I find it to be a bit lazy. I understand it's a cost-cutting exercise, but I find it to be lazy, which, yeah, not a fan. As a film, there was a lot about it that was fine. And as a film, there was a lot about it that wasn't fine. Like, every now and then I was like, oh man, there's like this glaring issue. Like, there was this one thing that kept like sort of nagging at me towards the back end of the film, where I'm like, if you've got two characters who are reliant on oxygen on a planet that doesn't have any oxygen, and you're trying to portray that both characters have been put there at exactly the same time, so their oxygen levels are exactly the same, but you know full well, because the film's told you, that that's not the case. It was things like that. There was stuff about it that was just super distracting. Number one at the top of my list was Jennifer Lopez. I would have rather anybody else played that role. Oh my dear. Super dry throat. It was fine as a Saturday night movie. It wasn't great. It probably wasn't even good. It was fine. Unfortunately for me, there was a lot about it that dragged it down, which I feel in a lot of ways could have been avoided. There was a point where I was a bit like, do you suppose Mark Strong's just turning up and collecting a paycheck at this point and just reading off the lines? It was a bit... Computer games. I finished Into the Radius, the PC VR version of it. That game is hard on the PC. That was the one takeaway. It was hard. Part of me thinks that I probably won't go back to it on the PC. Part of me wants to go back to it on the standalone Quest version. Part of me thinks that I had a game in progress at the point in time I switched over to the PC version. But there is also a part of me that has decided to for want of a better way of putting it, try other things. I'm very much aware that, Into the Radius has become like my go-to. Often in a place where Half-Life Alyx was like, 2 or 3 years ago. Into the Radius has taken that sort of position. Ironically, I was playing Half-Life Alyx last night because in testing all of this PC VR stuff. I'd played like 2 or 3 levels of Half-Life Alyx to sort of, that is a true benchmark for PC VR. So, does it run Half-Life is always the thing, isn't it? Having finished Into the Radius, ages ago, and when I say ages, I do mean like 2 weeks ago, I bought a standalone Quest standalone game, and never played it. This was a twofold thing. One, I played a trial of the game that was like 20-30 minute trial, and I really enjoyed it. And off the back of the trial, I bought it. And then it was round about the time that I was playing Into the Radius on the PC. So never got to it. That game is Crisis Brigade 2. A game that basically works on the principle that if you played Time Crisis at any point in your life, you will love this game. This game has been solely designed around Time Crisis. And it's great fun. I loved Time Crisis. I played that arcade so much. I then bought it. I think I bought it multiple times for like the PlayStation and stuff. I just adored that game. So for me, it's like a bit of nostalgia. It's brought up to date with the fact that it's VR. One of the levels I played the other night, I was like, I mean, this is just great. There's a point where I was like, oh, we don't really have much information on this level. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. I'll give it a whirl. Selected to start, and then you're in a police station as like your HQ, where you pick your levels and you pick what sort of like weapons or upgrades or anything like that you want. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just start the mission and see what happens. Press start, and there's like an explosion off to the side, and the mission turns into the police station's been overrun by bad guys, and I was like, that's cool. That's a lot of fun. Unfortunately for me, it was really difficult. But I did manage to get through it, so found out the other day that there was a sale on the Quest. Standalone sale. And it was one of those like 30% off, but it just ending at the end of May, which we're at. So I was like, oh, okay. Had a look and I was like, damn it, that game that I've been looking at is in it. And all of the DLC were also discounted. So I was like, so the price of the game originally was £15, but for the price of £15, I managed to get the game. And one of the DLCs which I actually wanted, it's another drumming game, Drums Rock. This one works on the principle that you're defeating flying demons with drum hits. The DLC that I got with it, but I also bought was a Green Day heavy DLC. I've played it. It's fun. It's enjoyable. I picked up another DLC for it because it had a load of songs on that I really fancied having a go on. Couple of downsides to it. One, it has that thing where, you need so many stars to progress, but then gives you like harder missions. I say harder missions, harder like songs to play with a higher difficulty. And I'm like, okay, so what happens when I can't get the number of stars I need to progress, which has already happened in the game? All right, so that's it. That's the end of that. You can't progress any further in the game because the game's too hard. Well, that's fun, isn't it? And on a couple of the songs I've played, it's registering other drum hits. Now, as a gamer, if I make a mistake, I'm going to immediately hold my hands up and be like, that was me. I did that. But because of that, I don't accept when a game makes mistakes. Now, in a game where your drum hits are, you've hit a sequence of drum hits, so you get extra points. If you then miss one of those hits, or you miss hitting a note, or you miss hitting like a symbol or whatever, if you've missed it, then you should lose that bonus. If the game has misregistered it, well, then that's on the game, isn't it? It's been good. It's been worth the money I've paid for it. I've enjoyed it. I'm going to get Leon on it. I'm going to get my eldest on it. I'm going to go. So that's all I really ask for something like that. It should give me the amount of fun. I saw a review the other day that said, for every £1 I give you, you should give me an hour. I was like, I see what you're saying, but I don't think that's right. Or if you buy a game for £40 and it lasts you 10 hours. So I've got this thing about... So, V Rising. I was loving it. I was enjoying it. All of that. I reached the point where I had a boss that I couldn't beat, and I honestly thought that this was maybe the end of the game for me, because it was one of those. It wasn't even like, I was one hit away from beating him. I was nowhere close, and he was really far away from like a spawn point. And I was genuinely like, I don't think I can do this, because I can't level up anymore either. So this is purely on a ability basis. I got to the point where I was like changing like magic spells and stuff, or like magic weaponry type thing, to try and get some sort of edge, and nothing was working. Went away, did a load of like crafty type stuff, came back to try again. Started watching videos on how to do it. The videos were from a different version of the game, so didn't really help. It was getting to be quite dire. Then I saw a couple of videos that were like, make sure you use all the space of the area that you fight him in. I was like, okay, that's probably good advice. And another video was saying about attacking, like he as an enemy spawns other enemies, and I was just running away from them, and then eventually I get swamped by them. And this video was like, make sure you take them out as early as you can. I was like, that also probably makes a lot of sense. So combining those two things, I actually managed to beat this boss. So I was like, cool. Did that. I went back to the castle. I did whatever. Then I was out and about, and I inadvertently ended up finding the last boss of the first act. And I was a bit like, oh, that kind of snuck up on me. Fought him, died, but nearly killed him. And I was like, that's interesting. So I think it took me 3 attempts, and I beat him, and I finished the first act. And this feels a little weird to say, but I was weirdly disappointed, because he was a higher level, and I beat him, and I was like, oh. Now, I will say this, I managed to get a couple of like decent upgrades from these two bosses, so I was a bit like, maybe it was just that. I was a much higher level than both of them, even though one was a higher level than the other, etc. So then I got a new area to explore, and a new set of like overarching missions, which was I needed to build this thing, and I looked into how to do it, and it was utter insanity. The to-do list was like half a mile long. To get some of the resources required, I had to go to an area where the enemies, just the standard enemies, were like 3 levels, 4 levels, 5 levels higher than I am. I'm like, okay. Now what? I was having a conversation with somebody where I was saying, I think the game has become too much. I think it is too much for me as a person, as a gamer, whatever. There's just too much to do and too much to remember. Too much to hold in your head. And ultimately, I just walked away from it as a game. I was like, I can't do this. And that was that. I just walked away and I just went off and played other stuff. Playing a lot of VR, playing other games that I bought. I'm playing them on the Steam Deck. Stuff I bought in like the sales, man. Jesus, the sales. I reached a point yesterday, I was like, actually, I think this is unfair because I was really enjoying it as a game. So, last night I made a concerted effort to go back to it. And I was like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to focus on doing that one thing. To-do list item number 1. Do that. Go from there. So that's what I did. I was like, right, I need iron ingots. And with that, I need iron. And unfortunately, the iron comes from the area where it's too high level enemy, whatever. But I've got some, so I just told it to make iron. Then I started upgrading the castle and stuff, and I had an entire play session of never leaving the castle and just chopping down trees, breaking stone, making bricks, building walls, all of that, clearing the area, make a nice home for myself. At this point in time, I've run out of iron ore. I need to go and get more and really don't want to have to do that because I know it's an area that's going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with. So it's a bit of a problem. Something I found out yesterday is it's a game coming out on the PlayStation, which I thought was interesting. Kind of wish I'd have known that it was coming out this soon because I knew it was coming out on the console, but I thought it was like a lot further down the line. I'm pretty sure it comes out next month. I was like, I would have liked to have known that, and I'd have maybe waited for it and just played it on the PlayStation. Finally, a game I bought in a sale. It's a game I was previously mildly interested in, and because it was in a sale, relatively cheap, I bought it. And it's been good. It's been good so far. I bought the game Evil West. Works on the principle, weirdly, that you're a vampire hunter of some description, and you have. It's been described as a melee-based game that has guns and things for crowd control, and it is very much that. Something I wish I'd not seen was a review that I was looking at was like, oh, it's just an arena fighting type thing with bits that connect those arenas together. I was like, all right, okay. And then when I play it, that's all I can think because it very much is travel along this bit of road until you get to this big area, fight loads of bad guys. A way that has been countered is it's one of those games that every so often it's like, here's an upgrade. And then you play a bit more, it's like, here's an upgrade. And you play a bit more, it's like, here's a new gun. You play a bit more, it's like, here's a big lightning attack. And it's like, it keeps you interested from that perspective. Plays reasonably well. It's enjoyable. It's fun. So yeah, I think I'll, keep jumping around on those games that I've listed out there. And that is it. That is the podcast for this week. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And I'll catch you next time. So there we go. What do you think of that? Another one done, another one gone. Oof, where did they all go? Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this whole experiment that's been going on a little while now. Before you go, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button, click a like, share the podcast around, leave a review where you can leave a review, and check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we've got social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That is it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
You've just listened to another episode of Cookie Cast. Thanks for listening.